Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Hello and welcome to the STR Data Lab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined today by Andrew Keller. He is a master short-term rental photographer and founder of ISO Need Photos. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on today. It's an honor.
So, Andrew, we've worked together.
Yep.
I found you actually through BuildFace Facebook group as a highly recommended photographer. And a few months ago, I hired you to take photos for my short-term rental investment that we've sort of been documenting at AirDNA on a show we called the Jamie's Lane Change. But really excited now to have you on the show and talk about short-term rental photography, because I feel like it's one of the most misunderstood pieces of getting your short-term rental up and running. Like, we've all got a cell phone that can take beautiful photos. We all think we're great photographers, but it's probably, and at least the people I talk to, it's like one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they take their own photography and their listing doesn't stand out and they don't get the bookings that they maybe would have expected to get. Even though they've done beautiful design, they've found a great location, they've done a great property. So really excited to sort of dive in with you on what makes photos great and maybe why professional photographers are able to really make a difference in terms of your short-term rental investment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited for this.
So maybe let's just roll it back a little bit. How did you sort of find yourself in this niche of short-term rental photography?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's kind of an interesting story, but I've been interested in photography since literally about age 3. I actually might even have a photo if anyone is watching it. Here's me at 3 years old, I think, with the camera there. So
Yeah.
photography's kind of been a lifelong passion. And then back in I think December of 2020, I had made a Chattanooga wall calendar and I was aggressively marketing that to a bunch of people on Facebook. And some guy was like, dude, these are really good photos. Do you think you could get us some drone shots at our river cabin? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to do that. So I went over and I got him some really good drone shots at twilight of his cabin on the river. And I always like to go above and beyond. And I'm like, I'm here. Can I just photograph the inside as well? So I did that. Photos were terrible. I had no idea what I was doing. But people kept asking me to do some real estate shoots. At this point, it's mostly run-of-the-mill real estate agents who pay $100 or $200 and complain about everything. But I was getting a little bit of work from them. And then one day, one of those agents gave me a nicer house, which was on a lake. And it was actually quite a nice house when I think about it. And I got home to edit and I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, I can hardly see the water out the windows. Everything's overexposed. The lighting is bad. The colors are bad. My compositions are great, but I just don't know how to edit this. And so I'm like watching all the YouTube videos I can, reading all the articles I can. Suddenly it clicked. I understood how to get photos edited. So I keep sharing my work on Facebook. And then that same guy who had hired me for the river cabin, he's like, wow, you got good. Can you do all 10 of my multi-million-dollar properties in my portfolio? And I'm like, yeah, I can. So he put me on like a super low retainer, but I worked on all of his in Sevierville and Western North Carolina, and then all the way out in Branson, Missouri. That kind of got me my portfolio started. And then people started seeing my work from that because I'm posting on Facebook this whole time. And this kind of took off from there with word of mouth. It kind of started slowly at first, but then once that snowball got rolling and going down the hill, it's now continuing to roll and I can't keep up with it anymore. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. So right now I've photographed properties in 22 different states plus Costa Rica. So I get around.
That's awesome. How many properties would you say you've taken photographs in now?
So that's a little bit where I like to differentiate myself from others. I'm not trying to do as many as I can. I like to do one property a day and do it to perfection. So last year I did 118 full package shoots, which is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. The year before that was probably, I don't know that I have a number, but probably 90-ish. I'd say in total, I've been to close to 250 to 300 properties, but probably done closer to like 200 full package shoots.
Wow. So, and this may be a terrible question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, of
Go
like,
for it.
I'm going from your first shot photo shoot, like, in December 2020 when you, like, didn't know what you're doing and just walked in the house and started taking photos to today, like, what is the, like, biggest thing you do differently now in terms of, like, and you've really learned, like, how to do this? Like, is there, like, 1 or 2 things that you say of, like, this is, like, what I've learned to do great photo shoots?
Yeah, I would say the main thing that's changed is just providing more photos, providing more different styles of photos. Like before, when I was just starting out, I might have given back maybe 70 or 80 photos per property. Now I'm consistently returning a minimum of 150 or so photos per property, just so we can get all those different angles, the wide angles, the close ups, the daytime, the nighttime, the twilight, the drone. So more variety, more styles. We throw in some more of the close ups of like the amenities, like the coffee bars and the games, laying them out. And just now from going to photographing more of the space to showing the whole experience.
No, that makes sense, and one of the things I sort of like in that is, like, you can start to test on, like, what you think actually drives bookings. There's, like, I know, like, when I got my sort of all my photos from you, like, there was, like, 200 photos there, and,
I
like,
know.
I was trying to sort of narrow it down to, like, 50, 60 to include in my listing because you don't need 10 different views of the same thing. But, like, just because I think, like, something is great doesn't mean that is gonna be maybe the photo that and really resonates with people the most.
Exactly. So it's like I always provide way too many photos. You can go ahead and say that it's true. You don't need 200 photos. But it's like, well, does he want a photo from this side or does he want it from that side? Does he want to see that in background? I don't know. And so I've kind of learned to kind of adapt to my shooting style to what have people complained about in the past. Oh, I wish you'd have done it from all four corners, or I wish you would have done this. So now I just like literally take a photo of absolutely everything. It's way too much and it's probably overwhelming, but I give it all to you so you can have that option. And I try to make like a recommended folder to go through. But my philosophy is, especially since I'm shooting so many homes that are like 6, 7 hours away from home or a plane right away, I'm like, let's do everything because I can't come back.
Yeah. And then there's this sort of notion of, like, photos for selling your home and photos for selling your home on a nightly basis. And in someone that looks at a lot of homes for sale and a lot of short-term rentals, like, there's 2 entirely different styles. Uh, and I feel like for good reason. And honestly, I hate it when I see a home for sale where it's clearly they just took their short-term rental photos and, like, threw them on the MLS. And then likewise of, like, someone that spends half a million to $1 million buying this great short-term rental, and it's clear they just took the photos that they and were taking the home when it was up for sale, and used them as their short-term rental photos. And I've got a different questions on, like, the differences, but I wanted to maybe prompt you to initially with, like, can you sort of explain the difference of, like, staging? Like, they're staging a home for sale, and they're staging a home for a short-term rental shoot, and I feel like you do a great job in sort of staging the house, for short-term rental photos, and, like, do you say, like, some of the examples that you sort of do and sort of staging a home for, a short-term rental shoot?
Yeah, so the bare minimum staging a short-term rental shoot, the dining room table should always be set and like go ahead and put the fork, knife, spoon, plate, small plate, bowl, glass. Go ahead, set it so people can see, envision themselves eating there with the whole family. How many people does it sit? And also a good word of advice before you have your photographer come out: make sure you have enough matching plates and everything. Because I've been to so many properties and it's like, okay, well, you sleep 16 people, but we've got 10 plates and we've got 13 knives, and it's good to double check before the photo shoot. So that's a basic setting the table. Obviously opening the hot tub, putting fires in the fire pits, images in the TVs, just kind of make it more, hey, this is the experience, so to speak. Throw blankets and pillows on the beds neatly laid out, and just want to make the place like more cozy.
And then what are your thoughts around sort of lifestyle shoots of, like, actually bringing people in? Because that seems like something no one would ever do in a real estate photography shoot.
Nor should you. Nor should you for a basic real estate shoot. For short-term rental, yes. Not for a basic real estate shoot.
Has that been something that's you've seen become more and more popular?
Yep, it's definitely growing in popularity. It can be a little bit of a challenge as a photographer to try to get the whole house done and lifestyle photos in a day, especially when you're trying to work around people. But what I've found best is to like say, hey, let's have all the people come for 90 minutes between 12 and 1:30 or whatnot, knock all those shoots out, and then send everybody back home so we can get back to get the rest of the house done. But yeah, they've become a huge success for a lot of people. I just got back from a house in Kentucky and they had a pool and a pond and poker tables and movie theaters. So we did a bunch of shots with people in the kayaks and the pond. Then we had people playing and splashing around in the pool. Then we moved inside to like the poker table and the movie theater. So we knocked all those out in just about an hour. So we got a bunch of shots.
Yeah, and it's something I'm already regretting not doing a little bit with my own. Actually got a request from a guest prior to booking a few weeks ago, and they're like, I'm coming up with my young kids and like want to get a sense whether they're going to be safe playing in the creek. And I was like, I've got a ton of photos of my kids playing in that creek. Like, I'll just go ahead and send you some of those photos. But
Interesting.
it does like, and give you a sense of what, like why someone might want lifestyle photos of like, all right, like, is that creek, like, is it too deep for kids to play in? I'm like, oh no, I sent all the photos and it's like, they're ankle deep. Like it's not, I mean, it's great for kids to play in, but it's not something that you have to necessarily be worried about them playing in.
Yeah, that's a great thought because I know what your property is like, and I never would have thought about that. But yeah, as a booker, they probably wouldn't have had to ask that question if, say, photo number 10 was a couple of kids playing in the creek and with a caption with "Enjoy playing in the creek behind the house." It's shallow enough to have fun. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to really dig in with you on was this notion of like different shots at different times in the day. Because that's one of the things I loved when looking at all your other photos is like, it's clear you didn't just show up for a few hours and take photos. Like there was morning photos, there was nighttime photos, there was sort of twilight photos. It really sort of stemmed the gamut of like time of day. And like certain photos are sort of great, like in midday, other photos, like it's great to have that nighttime shot. And sort of question for you was like, how did you sort of get to that it needed to be a full day shoot and that just coming for a few hours? I'm sure like few hours could be significant savings in terms of like the number of shoots you could do in a day, the number of clients you could take on in a year, like the cost you would then have to provide. But and clearly you think there's something there on like that it does take doing this sort of 24-hour, 12-hour shoot to get all the great shots.
Yeah, so pretty much every shoot now is a minimum of 8 hours. Most of them are like a full day. It just depends on the property, but I like to avoid having like those really bright sunspots and shadows on the house. Like when the sun is low and on the horizon, you have it coming right through the windows, and you have all these weird spots. So the only way to avoid that is just to wait for the sun to move. So oftentimes I'll arrive at like say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll shoot all the rooms that are on whatever side of the house doesn't have that. And then I'll do all my twilight and night shots that evening. And then the following morning, I'll do all the rooms on the other side of the house, which then don't have the sun shining through them the way I don't want it to be. So you just kind of got to work around the sun. Every now and then you'll get lucky and it'll be cloudy day. Well, lucky or disappointed. If people want the sun rays, I don't know, it can go back and forth. But yeah, I think the fastest I ever did a house completely when we had like optimal weather and lighting and the house was ready and everything, it was about 3,900 square feet. I literally just put my phone in another room on airplane mode for the whole shoot. It still took 8 hours by the time you set all the tables, you do the Matterport, the 3D floor plans, all of your 200 or so photos. And yeah, there's a lot of people, especially a lot of my competition, that'll come in and out, and they'll be there for like 2 or 3 hours and they'll knock everything out and they'll be good. But you'll have some of those weird sunspots. They'll do the artificial virtual twilights, which look terrible. Yeah, they might make a lot more money and serve a lot more clients today. But my philosophy has always been if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the absolute best of my ability, no matter what. And if that requires a full day at a property, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. So, um, this is the STR Data Lab, and we're talking about photos, and there's got to be that connection between bookings and photos, and like intuitively, I believe it's there. But have you had any sort of anecdotal evidence or discussion with people on like how much of a difference having sort of strong professional photos sort of mean for overall sort of performance?
Yeah, I wish I had like a scientific study to point to, but I mean, I just have talked to people. Most of the numbers I hear are about 15 to 20% increase in performance after updating them. There's some people who have said it's made no difference, and then there's some people who have said they got twice as much. But kind of the most people seem to be in that 10 to 20 or 15 to 20%. But I mean, let's think about it. Even if your property is only grossing $50,000 a year and you're getting an extra even 10% from that, that's $5,000. That pays for your photo shoot and then some, and you still have those photos for the next few years. So I mean, it pays for itself. And I'll say this, even with like the 3D floor plans, I have had a huge amount of success with my clients with that. They told me, yes, we got a booking because we were able to send them the 3D floor plans and they were able to see where grandma was going to sleep and how many stairs there were between levels. So those have honestly been like just as much of a game changer as professional photos.
Yeah, and that's something I was so excited about because we had this like I'm not sure if you noticed it, but this one sort of weird bedroom that was only accessible through another bedroom,
Yes. Yep.
which we thought was and so it was like I wouldn't say a red flag, but it was a yellow flag when we were buying the property of like, all right, this is kind of weird. Like you'd love for each room to be able to be accessible on its own, like to the bathrooms and not have to go through another room. But we're like, we're going to make it a kid's room. Primarily, like maybe there'd be a family upstairs and they'd have take the king bed and then the kids' room and like not be too big of a deal. But it's something that we didn't want to be a surprise, right? Because then when it's surprise, then people are having a bad experience, and like for us to be able to show it in the floor and talk about it in the listing, show it in the floor plan, like hopefully alleviates any surprises.
Exactly.
Um,
And it should cut down on questions ahead of time too. Like, well, how many bedrooms are on the main floor? I didn't read through your description because I have no attention span. But you can just say, here's the photo. And they can see everything in one question. Oftentimes our family will try to book some Airbnbs to get together with everyone. But we're not booking the fancy we're not booking any of the places I photograph because we can't afford them. But we're always booking the ones with like smartphone photos and whatnot. And we're like, where is that bedroom? How many stairs are there? We have no idea. We can't figure it out at all. And it's like, it's so helpful when people have those because suddenly, boom, you can visualize it. Is it going to work? Yes. Okay, let's book. Okay, is that not going to work? Okay, we're not going to ask them a bunch of questions and then not book. We're just going to skip it. So,
yeah. Do you ever worry that people, and when they get their photos, are like, you made my property work look too great? Like people are now going to have too high expectations from after looking at the photos?
um, I don't know. I mean, I don't try to super overly enhance them. I try to keep them pretty realistic, but I mean,
Yeah.
the twilight photos always makes any property look better than it is, I think,
It-
sometimes. But
yeah. No, it's, remember looking at the photos when you sent them to me and be like, man, like that property looks so good. Like, oh yeah, that's mine.
uh-huh.
The other sort of question that I had, because I'm still debating on it, is like your opinion on like that, like strong like hero image. Like, what is that first image that you're gonna see? I actually just had a funny experience with Expedia, where now I think they automatically choose what your hero image is,
Oh
like through
no.
their AI. And like I had like this great image of like the fire pit and the twilight and like thought it was a great one. And then I recently went on to my Expedia page and they had chosen the photo of the carport. And that
What?
was now the main image of the property. I'm like,
Oh
man,
boy.
like
Yeah, so I'd say with the hero image, you want to show what makes your property unique right out of the bat. So oftentimes, and it's going to be like the outside of the house, probably at twilight, but every now and then, if you've got like an amazing mountain view or lake view, sometimes I'd pick the photo that shows the views from the the grand room or the living room, but you want to show what's unique right off the bat, especially in those first 5 photos. And especially for that cover photo, have it be something that's colorful because when people are searching on Airbnb and everything is like blue and green daytime photos of cabins, what's going to stop the scroll? Is a nice dark one with all the lights on coming out of the windows, a twilight one going to stop the scroll? Maybe pick that one. Does everyone in your market have a twilight photo? Okay, don't pick that one. Choose the one that shows the view from the inside of the photos. You got to figure out how to constantly be different and maybe even change things around every now and then.
Yeah. What do you think about like seasonality too, and how that impacts? Like we got great photos in the mountains in the fall, which the fall foliage is just beautiful, right? But something I've also been thinking, like in the winter, like all those leaves drop, and we actually have great mountain views.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which you couldn't even like you can't even see when you're at the property when the trees are in full foliage. But once all the leaves drops, like yeah, it does have a great view, which we weren't able to highlight. Then in the summer, like it really does change to and kids and the creek I think is like a really good thing to sort of drive bookings, maybe playing on the pickleball court, like that the hero image should change depending on the season and why people are actually booking that property.
Yeah, I would say so. So obviously you don't want to pay for a whole brand new photo shoot 4 times a year because it gets expensive. But
Yeah.
kind of my advice to people with that is pay for your full photo shoot whenever you're ready to launch your property, or wait till it's green at least. Winter photo shoots are they're okay, but whatever. But then always have like someone local just go back and take like your new exterior and drone photos like maybe 4 times a year because that's good. That's only going to run you a couple $100. It's not going to be me doing it because I don't have the time to do all those mini shoots. But if you can get a couple of those updates, that's probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah, and that's probably a good reminder for me of like, all right, like just because we paid for the full set, like doesn't mean we can't go back and like we've added a few things like to the game room and added a few things outside of like we don't need a full set of photos. All we need is like maybe one more angle where it shows that new thing we added, like and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and when I'm near people like that, especially repeat customers, I'll try to fit it in. But I mean, I'm pulled in so many different directions and states. It's like I can't be your permanent go-to photographer. Hey, I added a new thing. Can you come back? Well, I'm 3 hours away, and that's just not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and what's your sort of goals in the industry? When we were talking, you said that and you'd been saving to buy your own short-term rental. How's that sort of process going? And sort of I'm thinking about getting into short-term rental investment.
Yeah, so I'm still not sure the difference between AirDNA and STR Insights. However, I've already scheduled a call with, I guess, maybe your competitor. I don't know,
Yeah.
like Kenny,
Yeah,
Kenny at STR.
yeah, and we don't do consulting. So I would say we're the number one data provider out there, but everyone's going to use data and like, I'm sure they're leveraging our data. So you're going to get someone's opinion and their opinion of like what market's best, how to analyze the data, how to underrate the property, which is great, right?
Yeah. So I've got
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm hoping I've got a call scheduled with him for April, and we're gonna hopefully get the ball rolling forward to start getting one of my own. So it's gonna be scary, but I mean, all this money's just sitting in the bank, and it's gotta buy me a property. It's not gonna be super expensive, looking for like 400,000 or so
yeah.
property. But then I don't know. Do you have any good photographers you recommend for that? I don't know. But yeah, I hope to get one of my own. Right now, I co-host one at the end of the road, and it's gone well. Been a great learning experience, but it's going to be exciting to get my own and be able to do my own photos for it, and hopefully have it become extremely successful. We'll see.
That's awesome. I do have a question for you though on someone that maybe has decided to DIY their photos. Of they're like, I've got a little bit of experience. I got a great camera. I feel like I can do it myself. Like, is there any one sort of piece of a device for people that you have to like at least make it look like a professional came in and did it?
Yeah, so some people, it's rare, but every now and then some people decide to wait on me until I can get to them in a week or two, and they'll do their photos with their phone. And the big thing I'll tell them, and I'll tell anybody, a lot of people try to take, when you look on Airbnb on all these bottom feeder listings, I call it the security angle view. And it's like they are holding their phone at like head height, looking down at the room, and all the verticals are this way, and everything's so distorted, and they do it in every single room. So a lot of times what I'll tell people is get down on like one knee, or if you don't need to, you can just hold like your phone way down here. But hold your phone at about light switch height is what I have found is best. Phone, camera, whatever, and make sure it's nice and perpendicular to those walls. And that's going to be the number one thing, just to keep the room sizes looking accurate and not distorted. And then whenever I go into a property, the first things I do is I turn on all of the lights, I turn off all of the ceiling fans, I close all of the toilet seats, and I open all the window blinds. So that's a good thing to remember. And open your hot tubs, of course. Go ahead, set the tables. But yeah, that can work. Honestly, unless you have like a lot of editing skills with Photoshop or Lightroom, they're never going to come out as well as a professional, because what we actually do is we take 5 different photos. So you've got your baseline, you've got a dark, you've got a really dark, then you've got bright and really bright. That's what gets all merged together to get that dynamic range and detail. But you can get some really, really good photos on modern phones nowadays too. Just the best thing is going to be keep those rooms nice and level and keep the phone nice and low, and shoot it in RAW if you can. And people can always send it to me if they're waiting for me, and I'll go ahead and just edit them for free before I get there. So that would be my words of advice, I guess.
No, that's great advice. And then is there any shot that you think is like the number one shot like missing that people typically don't do? I'll seed it with one of the ones like that I love that you did that like I didn't ask you to do, and I feel like most people don't do, and it's like it's maybe not intuitive, of like going in and opening all the drawers, taking photos of each drawer, but then, like, not where I have to include, like, a photo of each drawer, like, then you putting them all together and, like, here's one photo of all the drawers open so you can see what you're gonna get, and you don't have to, like, and do all the individual ones. Like, I felt like that was a great, like, non-intuitive way to highlight, like, all the things you're included in the kitchen.
Yeah, I think Bill started talking about that years ago, and then I just started doing it, and now I do it for everyone. And you'd be amazed at how many people tell me that, wow, we're really thankful you did that. And I always hate those shots because they're so boring. But I mean, it really does help, because when you have a big family traveling, well, do you have a crock pot? Do you have a baking sheet? Do you have this and that? And it's good to know. That's an excellent thing to show that you have it, because your neighbor STR might not have it. And that's just another way you can stand apart. Yeah. The other shot I'd say people are missing sometimes is oftentimes going to be like those drone photos. Like they don't want to just see the house, they want to see what's around the house. Is it a sketchy trailer park right next door? And if it is, probably don't photograph it. But I mean, assuming it's not, you want to show like how much empty remote land is around there. Can you see the downtown skyline in the distance? Can we drop a location pin on the house, draw out the path to the beach and put a location pin on the beach, or show the home in relation to the community center with the fitness center and the pool? So the drone shots like that are oftentimes what's missing. And just to take it a step further, drone shots aren't enough. You got to like label those drone shots, put the location pins on them so you can see where everything is.
Yep. No, we ended up doing like this. I'm not sure if you remember this photo of like, there's like this trail in my property.
Oh, we did that at yours. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And like the trail takes you onto the creek. And like what I realized with some people that booked direct was that because they didn't go through Airbnb, like they were just friends, and like I didn't send them the listing. They were just like, oh, we saw your property. Like I didn't have that photo anywhere at the property. I didn't send it to them. So then they didn't like actually know everything in the property, and they didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to print it out and like make a map of the property so they can see everything that's there. Cause it's when you have that much space, like there is just this notion of like, now in here, I like, what all is there to do on the property and how do I get there? And like, yeah, make sure you sort of get that full experience.
Yeah. Very cool.
So, coming up on the end, we've been talking now for a full 30 minutes on photos. Maybe one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, And for someone now that's decided that they're going to hire a pro, I've got two sort of related questions. One, like, I know you're busy, but how would you go about, and if they weren't going to hire you or couldn't get you in the time that they wanted, how should they go about trying to find a local photographer or a photographer that sort of specializes in short-term rentals? And then two is, how should they prep their property? Like, what is the one thing you wish everyone, or two things or three things? If you were sort of giving people a list of, like, if they're going to be an ideal client, all the things that they did that made your sort of job easiest, what would it be?
Yeah. So step one, you need to contact me first and see if I can help you. If not, I'll stick you on my Google spreadsheets, my waitlist form, so I can eventually work my way down to you. But assuming you can't get me, and hopefully you can, but assuming you can't, the best method I would recommend is just finding like a local Facebook group and, hey, who have you guys used that you like? And don't just look at the photographer's portfolio, because he'll give you like his 50 best photos, but like ask the photographer, hey, can you send me a link to your 10 most recent Airbnbs you've photographed for? I have a lot of people asking me this. So I keep a favorite list on Airbnb of everyone I've worked for. And I'll just say, here's 50 listings. Go take a look. And so that's going to be a way you get a more accurate presentation of what the photographer's work is like. So local Facebook groups, ask for photographer recommendations, and then ask them for like Airbnb listings if you can. So that'd be how you would find another photographer if you can't find me. And then getting ready for the photographer and getting your house ready. This is a really big one. So a lot of people, and I've even seen on Facebook, post, "Oh, the photographer's coming. I wasn't quite ready, but I'll be there on site with them to help move junk from one corner to the other corner of the house." No, no, no. This is not how it works. So I always like to tell my clients that your place, when I show up, it needs to be 5-star guest ready. So I need to walk into your house. I need to be like a guest that booked off of Airbnb. Everything needs to be perfectly ready. No cleaners there, no lawns, no landscapers, no internet people. I need to walk in. It needs to be ready. I spend the night and I give you a 5-star review the next morning. So it needs to be like that. So I mean, I like when my clients are there because it's nice. You get to meet them and you get to make sure you're getting exactly what they want. But I always encourage my people to, if you are going to be there, make sure all your personal belongings are put in your car, put in a closet. Don't have them laying around, because even though I'm shooting the living room, I see over into the kitchen from here. And that box that you don't think is visible, it is visible. And you know what? When I do my 360 Matterport camera walkthrough, it's going to see everything 360 degrees around it. We're going to walk that through your house in between 100 and 200 scan points, and it's going to see everything. So make sure your house is like guest ready. That's the word I like to use. Not photo ready, but I want it to be guest ready. And then I also will like to remind people, now's the best time to go ahead and make sure all of your light bulbs are working, both inside and particularly outside. If you can get string lights anywhere on the property before a photographer shows up, that's always going to be a recommendation. They look so good. They're so cheap. You can buy them for like under $100, and they just look so much better, especially around the hot tub and on porches. I would always recommend buying the plug-in ones rather than the solar, because as you know, the solar ones do not work all the time. And then also make sure your hot tubs are filled up. I'll show up to a lot of properties and it's like the hot tub level is like really low. And when you're trying to do the photos with the charcuterie board and the wine on the edge, well, sometimes there's not enough water in there. And I turned one hot tub on once to have all the bubbles going. And since there's too much air and not enough water in it, water just shot everywhere, including on me. So that was fun. So that goes back to having it guest ready, not photo ready, and just making sure the place is all staged how you want it. Now I'll like set the table and do like the basic staging, but I'm not going to be ironing curtains. I'm not going to be taping rugs down to the floor and all that stuff. So go ahead and do that. A lot of people will travel in from out of state when I go to photograph a property, and I always recommend that, especially for you people who do live out of state. The best time to show up and do a property check is right before the photographer comes, and then you can see, hey, what do we need to get here? How can we make this place better? And just being able to have eyes on your property a couple days before the photo shoot is what I would always recommend. So yeah, and then guest ready.
It's funny, when you were there, like, yeah, our solar lights stopped working, and then I hadn't fixed them yet, and the next guest showed up, and they complained that the
Oh,
solar lights
really?
weren't working too. And so I was like, I know, that's my fault. I'm gonna drive up to the house right now and fix it. And so I was like, do you guys mind if I come by and just like string up new lights? And they're like, not at all. So drove up the hour and a half up to the property, strung all new lights, got it all looking great, hardwired them in, got a plug with a remote on it so they can turn them on and off, and no issues since then. But man,
Yep, that's a big one. You'd be surprised how many places you show up to. Like, I show up to a lot of places, and it's like they don't have all their light bulbs working, like inside or outside. And I'm like, come on.
and then the other piece of advice I'll give you is, instead of doing Airbnb favorites, you can actually go into AirDNA, favorite all the properties that you've worked with, and then use that as a, not only be able to show them the photos from the Airbnb links, but how much money all these properties are now making that you photographed. So
Interesting.
that could
I
be a
might
fun
have to
one.
I might have to have your help figuring out how that works, but I like that idea because I like data and I'm a data nerd.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for joining. It's really been a lot of fun, your brain on short-term rental photography, and clearly, and you've sort of leaned into the niche and have become one of the experts in the space on how to make and really photography stand out and stuff that will stop the scroll.
Yeah, you could say I'm kind of addicted to it. So always trying to figure out what else can I do to make my clients' properties look even better? What other cool things can I do and how can we get them even more bookings? Because at the end of the day, people hire me because they want more bookings and that's my job.
And if people want to reach out, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, best way to reach out would be shoot a text over to 423-316-1967. And then I'll go ahead and send you a Google link and you can put all your information, property address in there, and it'll go in my spreadsheet and I'll work my way down the list and hopefully someday get down there to you.
Awesome, Andrew. Thanks so much.
All righty. Thank you.